Hi, this is Janet Wilson with Occupy the Roads. This is a really good interview. I hope it doesn't put you to sleep. If it doesn't, you're going to learn an awful lot. So here we are. We're still at Ft.Benning, and we are at the School of Americas, and we have had a protest today. And before me sits Jeff. Your last name, Jeff?
Long.
Long.
I had been recruited out of basic training out of the Air Force. At some point, it just kind of started up and wasn't even made known to me. It was just odd that I was being pulled out for odd little testing and interviews during basic training, while everybody else was going through the regular rigmarole. I was getting, I guess, special attention, and after a while, even my drill instructors, the TIs, knew something was strange and started backing off from harassing me. From what I remember, the ASVAB tests that were going on, which I don't think go on now. I'm sure that there's something like that, but these psychological exams, these time tests, multiple choice answer type situations that the schools were mandating. I just remember that a part of high school that they'd mentioned that by 10th grade, you had to take this ASVAB test, and where I went to school was in Florida, and they got the whole school together at the same time to take this test. It was a time test, and you would not be allowed to graduate high school without having this test taken in your record. But I just remember the strange thing about it was that they actually had military personnel on hand in the lunchroom while the school was there to take this test. Once it was finished, it was collected and given to the military personnel who were in uniform, and the information was taken off back to, wherever, Pentagon offices and whatnot. But they were definitely testing the students and collecting data to see. They're psychological exams,
Yeah,
so
they're looking for certain criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So
and now they don't have to do it as much as we see with the drone warfare that's going on. Video gaming and social networking. They can get all the information that they actually want. Rather than, with the video gaming, now that kind of stuff is online, where you can play people across the internet. You don't know who you're really playing. You might be playing somebody right out of the Pentagon, pretending to be another student, something like that. But these games were originally developed by the Pentagon, DARPA, and then farmed out to the corporations now that are selling the video games, these first-person shooter games. So now, with the data that's collected while these kids are sitting at home playing on their Xboxes and whatnot, they can build a profile, and then before you even get out of high school, you start getting contacted by the military to be pulled into some kind of fantastic career where you can be a first-person shooter sitting in a cubicle in some base somewhere in a nice gaming chair with all your monitors. And
selling the dream and talking about providing schooling was another thing for kids.
And some of the commercials I've actually seen on TV for the Air Force saying the same thing regarding your computer skills, going after high school kids, saying that you could be pulled in, work cybersecurity, and then they show you transforming from a teen into a military haircut and camouflage, working in a dark room in the Pentagon somewhere. That was Air Force intelligence. And so the CIA was a client of mine, as well as NSA, DIA, Defense Intelligence. It was a joint intelligence facility where I worked in Germany during the Cold War. So it was, every alphabet soup agency, all four branches of military intelligence and contractor agencies.
did you go through special training with what you were doing while you were in Airport?
Well, that was in Denver. My school was in Denver at
Right.
the time. It's now on defunct base, but we talked about the wonderful underground structures there at the new airport that was
Yes,
being built when I was
indeed.
going to school out
Was
there,
it?
and the oddities that were being brought up on the local news because it was taking so long to build. It was so far out of town, and everybody thought they had an airport that was fine, and the cost overruns, and how the news had reported that the construction company had somehow messed up with their engineering. They were building all these underground structures where they had excavated, but because there were so many problems, they just decided to bury everything and start from scratch on top with more cost overruns.
But you're thinking it's 7 layers deep. So
Well,
I'm
no,
thinking,
that's
that's DC.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
messing
different
up
base
DC.
that's behind the house and
Okay.
in
So
Fort Lauderdale.
there's no doubt there's an underground, whatever it is, under Denver Airport, because it was covered on a show, like I want to say 60 Minutes or something.
Conspiracy theory with Jesse Ventura had
maybe
had done something about that, and then the local news
right.
found it to be problematic, so they went to the underground facility to show that it really wasn't that big of a deal. But what Jesse's show had shown, and I went to school out there in '87, and they were building it at that point. The plaque inside the airport says that the New World Airport Authority had finished building it in '94, but it's still being built. I mean, they're still out there with close to about 20.
Interesting name.
20 contractors doing government work, still building these facilities on this massive plateau, this plain that's out there.
Yeah.
It's for a lot of their, because the CIA is the largest
drug dealer
on the planet.
Found that out in Florida. I have an interesting story I'll tell you sometime about Florida, but yes, I'm not surprised.
The other part of the question, where I had my moment of clarity was when I read Phil Agee's book, Lou's partner and friend. Somebody had stuck a copy in the Stars and Stripes bookstore in Germany, and I was a voracious reader of all our pro-propaganda on all the operations that we're involved in, that cleared writers were putting out into the mainstream. But it was about 4.5 years in when I came across Phil's book and saw how he was being treated after he left the CIA, and had his moment of clarity, and how they were running him out of country by country by country. They'd taken his passport and harassing him and through political character assassinations they were going for at first, but it was obvious how they would have no problem taking out their own employees, as it were. And so when I read that, then I started snooping around at work a little bit more, looking at, because I was always going through filing cabinets and probably looking where I wasn't supposed to, but just had a change of heart in what I was doing and the people I was actually working for. So as part of the Cold War and what we're doing in fighting the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc, East Germany. So I picked up anything and read all the time and take stuff back to work and sneak away to dark little corners, keep reading, especially if some dignitary or some general was coming through, just because I had no interest in meeting any of these people, because I found them to be quite boring. And plus I wasn't being an artist and a designer, because that's my background and that's what they trained me to do. Design.
Were they going to use you for propaganda and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Regular intelligence material briefings, things like that, but forging documents, propaganda, because I was there for 6 years. I used to get there at work early and have my coffee and and read message traffic on what was going on that day, the real news, what was going to be planted into the New York Times or the Washington Post, or have Walter Cronkite speak about it, CIA
Selective
asset
news.
himself.
Yeah.
Operation Mockingbird type of information.
You were part of the 9/11 truth, or are you?
I've been researching it for a long time.
Researching, okay. And so part of what you've uncovered, what is the most striking thing that you go, how can we not pay attention to this? What do you find most amazing that we have ignored, or that the commission has ignored or not focused on?
The idea that both the commissioners as well as the senior counsel for the commissioners all came out afterwards and said that they were lied to throughout the whole investigation. I think it was Hamilton, did a TV interview in Canada, of course not here, talking about that. But you would never see that here in our mainstream controlled media environment. But the amount of information that was left out of the commission report, that Building 7 was not even mentioned. 3 skyscrapers collapsed that day, but only 2 were hit by aircraft. You have Bush and Cheney meeting behind closed doors, holding hands. I guess they're BFFs, and to testify, no notes were going to be taken, wasn't going to be recorded, off the record, not under oath.
How is that allowed? I still to this day don't get.
They stymied the investigation for was it 441 days, maybe something like that. But you go back and look at the other investigations. Look at the shuttle disasters, how quickly those were investigated, how much money was dumped into them.
And the Clinton sex scandal. Apparently that's more important than 9/11, because how much money do we spend on that? I was like, really? This is what we're going to be concerned?
It's somewhere between $41 and $60 million.
What a crazy world this is.
For intern sex and cigar stories.
Yeah.
But that's the salacious stuff, and that's what people like, and sells tabloid journalism.
And so my thought is, what happens if the American people find out that this actually is fact? They do have fact. Somebody did it, and we don't know who it is, but apparently I think, too, that there's more to the story.
But we do have a good idea of who is behind it. When people say, well who do you think?
So what's give me your view.
They said a year in advance that they gave the groundwork. They published a paper talking about how they were going to basically do it. And I'm talking about PNAC, the Project for New American Century. They laid the groundwork, published a document talking about their objectives and goals and
Now, is this somebody on American soil, or is this? Yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's a think tank group. They wanted to grow the military-industrial, security-industrial complex even more, but they knew that they were not going to get the American people behind them. After the Cold War was over, everybody kind of went to sleep and got comfortable. Well, they'd said, nothing would really happen unless we had, a new Pearl Harbor. They need something as catastrophic as that, and without that, they were not going to get anything. They were not going to be able to grow their coffers, grow the police state. But they published it a year out in advance, and
now where would that be published, and why would they do that? What would?
Well, this was a large neocon group filled with the movers and shakers around Washington, the Council on Foreign Relations type out of New York.
Is it like a bragging, or
Well, yeah, the hubris. They do this all the time. They typically will put their signature on something, no matter what's going on. They like to kind of broadcast it in advance, give you enough clues, because somehow within their creepy secret society religious sects, I guess that sound like sex, but
But
sex,
S-E-C-S.
S-E-C-T-S, but you could also say S-E-X compared to the creepy stuff that they're into.
Now, is this
involved
the
in.
Skull and Bones kind of thingy?
Skull
or
and Bones, but
the
these
whole
people are behind
secret?
the missing children, pedophilia, people that they pick up, that they wind up using as sex agents, people that they bring into their mind control operations. Just sick, twisted. I call them the people behind all this, and the wealthy families, the oligarchies that we deal with at this point here in the United States and within Europe, Russia. These are multi-generational serial killer families.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, they feel like they're above the law, and in most cases they are. But with the people behind PNAC, I mean, you had people that signed off on this document, mainly Dick Cheney, who I think is one of the key managers behind the 9/11 attacks. Jeb Bush was one of the signatories. Marvin, I think Marvin Bush. I mean, several of the Bush family. But I mean, all their names, the people that put out this document signed it and had no problem putting it out there ahead of time. What they needed to do. Rumsfeld, I think, was one of the signatories, and remember, he was one of the he's the one who gave the press conference September 10th, the day before, and was admitting to Pentagon missing or losing $2.3 trillion, and that
was that
they were going to
flats of cash? Well,
no, that was
during the war.
That was during
yeah.
the.
Yes, it was. I forgot. So what was the missing cash then before that? I don't think I know about that.
They'd lost it. Part behind that was Doug Sockheim, comptroller for the Pentagon. Somebody who, the amount of people that were involved in it, dual Israeli citizens, these people that have dual citizenship to two different countries, but security clearances at the highest level. And you got to ask, where does your allegiance fall to?
Didn't Osama at some point? I mean, wasn't he heavily involved with the Americans?
Tim Osman, a CIA asset since the beginning. You got to understand the Bin Laden family and the Bush family have been tight for a very long time, business partners. I mean, they were both on the board, the Carlyle Group, and meeting on 9/11 that day. Whenever Bin Laden, Osama, when he blew up the Khobar Towers and the Marine barracks, it was his family's construction business that got the bid to rebuild these at the behest of the Bush family. So I mean, you see where
they're all taking care of each other.
Yeah.
It's like a big old family. I know.
Yeah. Controlled demolition to where blow it up within the family, and then you get the contract to rebuild it.
Yeah.
Same thing with 9/11. I mean, you see the Bush fingerprints all over the place. Bush Sr., and the involvement of the Hinckley shooting in D.C. when Reagan was shot. They had a continuity of government exercise where they were going to act out assassinating the president as a war game scenario exercise, and institute continuity of government to work out the issues of continuing the government once the president was incapacitated. But just lo and behold, the day before, it actually happens the way that they were going to act it out by Hinckley, who was a family friend of the Bushes. They grew up together in Connecticut, and Bush Sr. had to finally admit in the papers that his son Neil was supposed to meet with Hinckley's older brother in Denver, where the two families lived there, and they're business partners. but they had to cancel the dinner meeting because of the shooting. You see stuff going back and forth. You see that Prescott Bush, was involved in the bank plot, the coup of 1933 to take out FDR, where they had amassed with all the Wall Street movers and shakers and bankers, J.P. Morgan, Carnegie,
same old names.
Rockefellers,
Isn't
all
that
these
interesting?
same people were amassing 500,000 troops to take over the nation. They wanted to use Smedley Butler, General Smedley Butler, was highly decorated military veteran at that time, 33 years as a Marine and general, and they contacted him to take over and use the troops, take over Washington, and they were going to put him in power as the president. But he was smart enough to listen to all these creepy Wall Street types and take down the information, and he went and reported it to FDR, and then there was a congressional inquiry into it, so it's on the record that this happened, but it's not taught in schools.
If only. That's one of my. I want to get into education because I think we fail so miserably, but
well, there's a whole thing behind that too.
Yeah, I know.
Those same people
on
behind
purpose. Yeah.
taking over the education system in the 30s.
My mind goes to what could we accomplish if we actually utilize the talent, and as a nation, what we could do. But unfortunately, we don't do that. But
well, they come at us at every different angle. Between the education, what they put in our food and our water.
And it's so nice that people are paying attention, but not enough. And so part of our mission is wake up and just pay attention.
You can even see that here, that here with the protest has been going on every year for trying to shut down School of the Americas, School of the Assassins, that we have our own, here on one of our own bases, a school to train assassins and terrorists for other nations, so that the CIA can send these people back to their home countries and take out their own leadership, take over their own countries, torment and torture their own citizenry, their neighbors, through these CIA operations. And you see the same thing with the alleged terrorists that were named in the 9/11 attacks, that several of them had lived and trained as military officers on some of the bases around here in this area, and Florida, I think Hurlburt Field, and one of the others I can't remember right now, but their driver's licenses, and it was reported in mainstream media at the time that they'd lived on these bases and being trained. So you see how this stuff just kind of plays together. I mean, you had with 9/11, the only people arrested on that day turned out to be Mossad agents. They were in Jersey filming across the river, and they said that you don't bother us. You have no problem with us. We work together. Your problem, the Palestinians. We're just here to document the event. Well, you can't document something if you don't know what's going to happen. So they were arrested, held for 70 days, and then shipped back to Israel. And then they did some TV programming. They went and talked about what they were doing as far as their operations. Another group of Mossad agents were arrested by the George Washington Bridge, and they had explosives, money, weapons in their van. I think that they were they're supposed to be in a moving company. But
and what do you think the plan was for that?
They're probably going to do something to the bridge, keep people trapped in. I mean, it's another psychological operation to scare people, the same way that they did with the towers, broadcasting that as almost like a made-for-TV movie for 2 hours. Showing it over and over and over again all day long, just to ingrain what had happen just
it was
to
overkill.
scare everybody.
It was, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was really sad. So
They had to terrorize the psyche of the American population.
yeah. What would you, if you had a chance to do something that you think would change the course of America, what do you think the country would need to do?
Well, one of the things that we've been talking about, I mean, if we actually had real open elections, that would be a start. Paper receipt, you know, if it was as easy as going to your ATM, you know, a Diebold ATM takes some money out of your account and at the same time vote.
I love that idea.
Get the receipt, because it's amazing how you can get it down to the fraction of a penny on your bank account statement instantly, pull money out of your account, but you can't vote and get a receipt out of these manipulated machines.
I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, well, you can't vote online. It's so corrupt. And I think, well, it's corrupt. There's no doubt about it. There was a movie put out in 2003 or 5 or whatever showing how corrupt it was.
Yeah, the black box voting. Well, the other thing, too, would be serious term limits to these political offices. I mean, these representatives we have up on Capitol Hill, if it was only 4 or 6, just say maybe 6 years, one term, you didn't get to be a lifetime up there on Capitol Hill for 60 years. If you only had a politician that could serve 6 years, it doesn't give the corporations enough time to write a paycheck to you, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, and then
have to start all over.
Right. You just have somebody that's in there that's actually going to get in there and do the will of the people for the area that they're they're allegedly representing, and vote on those kind of issues. Yeah, and actually vote on an issue rather than a political party. But you know, if these people start taking money from these corporations and doing something illegal, you know, it's treasonous.
It should be.
They hang up other people for lesser offenses.
So we're going to be out there educating the public, and you guys are educating the public. We lost our... I sort of got a pan over.
Lost the audience.
Because we got a couple sleepy heads. we lost a mic check. You guys are so much fun. I love it.
Both falling asleep on you?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Put me in a secret prison run by the CIA. Bury me under the moral high ground I can't seem to find today. I can hear the architects of fear's construction laughing somewhere between the greed and weapons of mass destruction. I've got my gun, I've got my boots, a copy of Orwell's 84. I'm a soldier dying in his perpetual war. This is my second tour. When the truth finally comes to surface in the mercury-laden sea, will it tear through the minds of millions, right through the flag they dream?